masterclass and things. And I'm like, absolutely, I'm happy to come and serve. I'm here to serve. So, yes, my name is Veritas Unkom. I'm a British Nigerian, I'm proud to say. All right. And so professionally, I just finished the bar. And I'll soon qualify to be a barrister and will soon be called by God's grace. But business-wise, I'm a speaker, and I'm a mindset and luxury branding business coach, all right? And that really came from my experiences as an entrepreneur, where I started in the beauty industry a couple years ago. Hair extensions, I love hair, I love eyelashes, so I went into the luxury side of the branding for that. All the errors I made there emerged into what I call the inspirational guru, me as a business coach coming to life, because I also own the fact that God blessed me with a calling of impact on other people to be their best self, all right? And then I got into the property business, and I'm also Forex and cryptocurrency trading. So God gave me like loads of skills in the entrepreneurial world, and I'm able to now share that with other people. But today I'll be focusing on more of the mindset side of things today, and I'll be talking about self-belief and business development. But I'm really going to spend time on self-belief because over time, as I've been working and going and speaking at places and even talking to my clients, I find that many people I work with say yes, they want wealth, they want to make 6 figures a month, they want to make 7 figures a month, and when they hear who would like to make 10K a month, you see everyone put their hands up. But then when I say, how many of you can actually tell me you have the mindset of someone that earns 10K? I don't see anyone's hands up. And I'm like, we've got a big problem. I'm sorry, not sorry, but you're not going to make 10K and you won't succeed. Because if your mindset is not right, then neither will your business be right. And neither will your life be right. We've been hearing that today by trust. You know, you have to have the mind, and it's what happens here that controls the body, and then what happens within here and the body will manifest itself on the outside. So I'm going to be interacting with everyone here today and get to know all of you, okay? So how many of you are entrepreneurs? Oh, wonderful. But how many of you want to be entrepreneurs? How many of you want to be entrepreneurs? How many of you have a major vision that God gave you and you're sitting on it?
No, I'm not sitting on it.
That's okay. There's no judgment. There's no judgment at all. And I'll keep it real with everyone. If anyone has a big vision that has been given to them and they're sitting on it, there's no judgment. I've been there. You know, I used to be the person that has all these ideas in my head. When it comes to manifesting that actively, I freeze. And that's because what was going on here was not matching what I was saying I'm going to get. So I'll be saying my affirmations and, I'm going to be a 6-figure earner. I'm a 6-figure earner. I'm going to start this business. But my mindset was saying to me, can you really afford to start this business? What if you fail? What if you get so big and people find out about your past? And that's where I noticed a lot of people are stuck, because I had a past. So you're hearing who I am now, but what if I told you guys that 5 years before now I was in the prison cell twice? What if I told you 5 years before now I was an urban glamour model, so people saw me naked on the internet? Oh yeah, that was me. What if I told you 5 years ago I failed my first year 3 times in university before I'm being called to the bar? Great. But the process to get there took 8 years. So I failed my first year 3 times. I failed uni twice, and I dropped out twice. And I was on the streets, getting in trouble with the law, standing in the magistrate's courts, having whoever these district judges were talking to me, and people outside who knew me were like, she's done for. I thought I was done for, but God has a different plan. You understand what I'm saying? I'm saying that to every single one of you, that if you have a big vision and you have a big goal, and you may have a bad past, or you may have come from poverty, or you may have come from, sexual abuse, prostitution, do not let that limiting self-belief stop you from manifesting your vision into active goals, whether it be in your business, whether it be to be a 6-7 figure earner, whether it be to be a lawyer. It doesn't matter where you came from. Those limiting self-belief, as a mindset coach, I help people get through breaking down that barrier, because I've been there. You understand what I'm saying? When I decided to go back to university, already I knew what was against me. Family members, she's going back again, but she's failed. Look at this one. African family. You have those ones say, look at what she's been naked on internet, which kind of lawyer. But I had to remember who I am through God. God sees me differently. I'm not sure how many people study. If you're not Christian, don't worry. You know, these are stories that are actively out there for anyone. Who's read the story of Joseph? Who's read the story of Joseph? Joseph, all right, his story is the one that really interests me the most, and I talk to my clients a lot about that story when it comes to mindset, because Joseph was one of 11 brothers at the time, and he was given a God-given vision, which was him being the prime minister of a nation, right? God didn't show him the process he was going to go through. I'm sure if God showed him the process he was going to go through, he would be like, I don't want it, please keep that, I don't want that. What God does is that God has a sense of humor.
Yes.
He'll give you a big vision, and your belief will be like, yeah, this is going to change the world. I'm going to change the world, and I'm going to change the world. I'm going to become a billionaire, millionaire, and I'm going to impact all these lives. But you don't know what it's going to take. Me, when I said I'm going to be a lawyer, dude, I didn't know. But I know I'll go through those failures and all of those down moments. I'll be like, please. You know what I mean? Like, God gave him the big vision, and him being such a big mouth. This is why I say be careful who you tell your ministry as well. Be careful who you tell. When they told his brothers about what God showed him, I'm going to be above all of you, problem. You know, the enemy sends his devices, jealousy took over his brothers, and his brothers put him in the pit of slavery. And there's something I call 4 P's of what Joseph went through. Joseph went from the pits of slavery to the palace. So he was in the palace working for Potiphar. Then Potiphar's wife, you know, that one came and caused a problem, and he went from being in the palace to prison. So pits of slavery to palace, palace to prison, but from the prison, prime minister of a nation. All right, so I'm going to start again. Yes. The pits is where God can take you. God can take you from the pits to the palace. Then took him from the palace, allowed him to go through the process of being a prisoner, incarceration. Then from being a person in a prison to a governor of a nation. But he had to go through that process to become a governor of a nation. King David, a forgotten child, had to go through the process of fighting in bears and lions every day and handling, being a shepherd of how many sheep to run a whole nation. So this is why I say, when God gives you a vision, no matter where you've come from, what you've been through the process, don't let that mess up your self-belief. Your self-belief has to stay strong, and you need to understand that it's part of the process to build you to become your glorious self. And while you're going through that process, you still got to show up as your higher self. Keep visioning your higher self and show up as him and show up as her. That's something I want to encourage every one of you to do. Even if you don't have money in your account, enough money in your account to go to a big an event full of 7-figure earners, 8-figure earners. I've done that. Fake it till you make it. I'm hearing of the 7-figure earners, 8-figure earners in this place, but I'm aiming for being an 8-figure earner and impacting, creating eternal impact on people's lives. Let me put myself in an environment of those people. I'm not thinking, when God gives you a vision, he's not thinking about your bank account. I'll still dress up as my higher self and show up as her, because my self-belief is that strong that regardless of what the process is now, I'm operating in the spiritual and physical. This is who I'm going to become, and I'm on the process to becoming that person. So this is what I want to encourage you all today. On the self-belief side, business development, your self-belief and your mindset has to be in a strong place first before you develop the business. Because as a business coach, I teach you how to package yourself first as well as the business. Because if you're not well packaged in your mind and in how you show up, your business is not going to succeed either. All right, so and that's, I'm going to end it because I know my time's limited, but you can find me on Instagram, because I didn't bring no slide. I thought, let me come and be myself and just talk to all of you, connect with all of you, you know. So my Instagram is _inspirational, _inspirational_guru. All right, so that's me. I'm also _inspirational_guru, GURU. I do 30-minute free breakthrough sessions. So if anyone needs a mindset coach to help them with learning how to manifest your actual visions into active goals, I have a 5-fold system process that I take you through for 6 weeks coaching program, or I do one-on-ones. But I can do a free 30-minute for everyone here today. So on my Instagram, if you click the link in my bio, you can actually book, because I've got some open spaces. You can book a call with me and we'll talk, and there's no judgment. You've heard my story. I'll get to know where you've come from, what you've been through, and how I can serve your needs. Okay, so that's my. You can connect with me there, or you can actually connect with me. Unfortunately, I have another speaking engagement that I'm going to run to, but you can connect with me through Caroline. Caroline, thank you for having me. I look forward to. I'm going to partner with her a lot because her spirit is amazing. So you're going to be seeing a lot more of me and you. All right, but yeah, just wanted to let all of you know, regardless of where you've come from, what you've been through, God is a God that can turn your message into a message, that can turn your test into a testimony. Your self-belief has to stay on 100, no matter what you're going through. Apply insane faith on a daily basis. Insane faith, my boy. All right. So God bless all of you. It's a pleasure. Spoke to me. Really spoke to me, because you know what? I've got a story, and many times. I mean, recently I've been getting a lot of engagements. I've been invited to talk on TV and things like that. And last weekend I had a situation where I ended up having to host a TV station, and in the back of my mind I was saying, oh my God, my story. I mean, I've spoken about my story in intimate groups like this, but then I started to worry about, oh my God, people are going to know about my past and things like that. Some of my past is not similar, but it is relatable. I mean, you know, the fact that I've stood in boardrooms and things like that, I never thought that would ever happen for me, because I've been there where I've decided I'm not doing my A-levels and all of that, and become a black sheep of the family. So you've really spoken to me like that. So thank you. So now we're going to have Cheryl Phoenix, who is the CEO of the Black Child Agenda. I've been waiting to meet you for weeks.
Oh, right, thank you. No, thank you. Sorry for my timekeeping. We just heard one of our family members was shot in the head last night and died, so it's been a bit of a long morning. It's been one of those days. It's alright, it's alright.
No,
Just give me 2 minutes.
oh my God.
So, yeah. Anyway, life goes on. If you live by the gun, you die by the gun, and that is just a fact. Not all children that are taking part in the foolishness we see on our streets are involved in gun and knife crime, but some of them are victims, my son being one of them, but he's luckily still alive. So anyway, my name is Cheryl Phoenix. I am the director of the Black Child Agenda, tackling the schools to prison pipeline. Now, I started back in 2011, and just to give you a brief history of who I am and where I came from, didn't finish GCSEs, but still went on to do a business degree. Don't know why, because I ran a business from the age of 22, UK Black Links Business Directory, with my late husband, who died in 2007, for quite some years. We ran a multi-million-pound company. We had 25 staff members, all unapologetically black. We had offices in London, Birmingham, Leeds, Coventry, and Bristol. And we basically sold advertising for us, by us narrative that we need to recycle the black pound. However, the thing is that when you start actually speaking up for yourself and actually investing in yourself, you come under attack. We used to be followed. Our phones were always tapped. We used to be followed to and from our office. We used to notice these things all the time. You pick up the phone, you hear someone on the line, you hear things coming through the TV. It was crazy, literally. You could actually hear the police radios talking over the phone. So that was common, so we knew that. However, my husband had sickle cell. He had a crisis on the 8th of February. 14th of February, because we went out for Valentine's Day, of course. Whether we take part or not, I like to be spoiled, and he used to spoil me. So went out for Valentine's, and he had a crisis that evening, and from there it went downhill. 2 years I slept in hospital chairs because the nurses weren't doing what they were supposed to do. With sickle cell, the first thing you're supposed to do when you go to hospital, give you oxygen, put you on fluids in your arm, and also pain relief. What they did was put him in the chair. I had no idea about sickle cell. I just thought it was something like diabetes or whatever, so I didn't know. So I'm sitting there, the drip's on the floor, and I'm saying to the nurses, ain't that supposed to be in his arm? And the nurse was like, oh, shut up, don't worry about that. So when I spoke to the doctor, I was like, isn't that supposed to be in his arm? Basically, that failure made him end up having multi-organ failure. So he ended up being on kidney dialysis So this was going on for 2 years until he subsequently met his demise on the 8th of February 2007. So
sorry, my daughter died of sickle cell. She had a bone marrow transplant. That's why it's like, I tough day today. It's usually tough for me.
Sorry. Oh. I'm not supposed to be here to make you look cry.
It's fine.
Thank you.
Crying is good sometimes.
Well, yeah, it relieves stress.
Yeah, it relieves
Rather than beating up
stress,
people on the street, I guess. So no, I hear you. So I know exactly what you went through. So that had a subsequent effect, obviously, on my whole family. I shut down the business. I basically near enough lost all my money. Went back into social housing, and then what I noticed in the schools was that my sons were being locked in isolation every day. There were falsified statements and they were told that they had to sign them. And my son, because particularly my youngest, says, I ain't signing nothing, call my mum. So I used to be traveling from Dubai, all over the world, because I was doing events at the same time, because I would do anything to keep my mind off being at the hospital all the time. So, like I said, eventually he passed away. My sons were being penalised, but what I also noticed that there were a lot of children being penalised in the education system, i.e. they weren't at school. So why are you not at school? I'm not allowed to go to school. So eventually a Guardian journalist followed me for the best part of 18 months whilst my son was out of school, was never excluded, and put our story as a double page spread in the Guardian, and we raised it at Parliament. Obviously you know how that went down, just like my last petition. I don't know how many of you signed it, but it was basically telling us to get stuff, which I expected, so that I was fine with that. I just got what I needed to do. So we raised it in Parliament, but I thought one black woman, you know what they say about us, chip on our shoulder, her son never does anything wrong, blah, blah, blah. So I started the Black Child Agenda, which literally came to me in a dream. I was like, I need to do something. How am I going to do it? And I woke up one night and I wrote it down on, you know, you have to write your stuff down. I wrote it down on my notepad and pen. Then the next morning I woke up and I opened it because I was like, I knew I dreamt something. And there it was. So then that's where we began. Since that day, when I put that in the newspapers till now, my phone doesn't stop ringing. My phone rings every single day of the week. Sometimes at 1:30 in the morning, sometimes at 5:30 in the morning on a Sunday, where I'll be cussing down. I don't care who it is. I will cuss you down the phone if you're calling me at that time. But at the same time, I get that parents are desperate. So, but then I also understand that if you're that desperate, why don't leave it to the last minute? Anyway. Yes. The fact is, I've basically watched the demise of our community, particularly the target of our children, and I keep saying it's almost like a chip has been implanted in these kids that seems to go off whenever they realise. Like with regards to what happened just yesterday with my son's cousin, I look at a lot of that and I'm like, well, how are these children so angry? But when I look at our children from 0 to 5, and then 5 to 7 and 7 to 9, they're fine. Academically, they're doing great. They're gifted and talented. They're doing everything they're supposed to do. However, what I see, because I go into schools every single day of the week, all next week I'm back to back. Going, and that's from London. I'm in Manchester one day, then I'm in Birmingham, then I'm back down to London, then I'm down to Kent, and then I'm over in Southend-on-Sea. So that's my week next week, just to give you an idea of how deep this is. And this is children with educational healthcare plans, EHCs, which is if they've got a learning need, then they have this plan which the school's supposed to follow, and 9 times out of 10 the schools aren't following it. Mum and dad don't know what to do or where to go. They call me in, they get shut down, and then they actually do what they're supposed to be doing. So I deal with children who have been bullied because their hair looks like mine or yours. In schools, girls being locked in isolation for 4 or 5 weeks at a time. That's unlawful, it's discriminatory. There's so many laws that people don't know. Education law is such a small area, but it's so tricky because schools try and find the loopholes in the law. So, but little do they know, someone like me who has not qualified in law, but has every law book known to man. I have all the legislation, I have legal barristers, solicitors, particularly in education law. I actually speak to everyone, and everything that comes out I'm privy to, and I get it sent firsthand. So with that, it allows me to go into the schools, do what I want, say what I want, I don't swear though, do what I want, say what I want, how I want, and they end up having to listen. I've made head teachers lose their jobs because they're blatantly racist towards our children. I've had schools put on special measures. I've changed policy. We took Chikezi Boys School. I don't know if you heard about Chikezi, the boy with the dreadlocks. Yep. That was one of our one of our education solicitors. That took a year Now that case alone costs about £250,000. How many people in this room have £250,000 to pay for an education lawyer? There is no legal aid for education law unless you have a severe learning need, and even that is very, very finite. Yeah, it's very finite. There's no legal aid for immigration law, there's no legal aid for employment law, there's no legal aid for anything to do with social care. So who does that affect? When it comes to all of those areas, it mostly affects us under the Discrimination Act, which they're trying to get rid of, and all these other areas. So with that, the Black Child Agenda phone rings constantly. Now, luckily, the only good thing is that now I've built the team over the years. We have about 60 people within our team doing mostly solicitors and barristers, whether it be here in the UK, Africa and the Caribbean as well, and also in America. So, and Canada. I forgot we had one from Canada as well. So there's always, so the thing with why I've done that, in America, whatever happens in America is coming here.
Exactly.
Everything that's happening there.
Plans.
Yeah, it's literally, it's a well orchestrated plan, just like the slave trade was. This is just now with our children being pushed into the prison system, is exactly the same
The new
thing.
slave trade.
It is the slave trade by the back door, and that is literally it. And the thing is that frustrates me is that so many of our parents don't recognise it because they're on this treadmill of I've got to work, I've got to pay bills, I've got to work, I've got to pay bills, you know. And if their child's been excluded, they're not there to look after their child, and that's where then I say then what are we doing as a wider community? Because if we don't get our act together quite quickly, I'm opening a funeral home. Because I'm going guaranteed to be a millionaire by the end of the year. Because we're failing our children as a collective. We're failing our parents as a collective. Because I shouldn't have to sit down in my house knowing I've got maybe three. Just to give you an example, I had a parent one time, didn't know her from anywhere. And this woman called me. I just finished my youth club. I used to run a youth club as well. But I had to shut that down. Just finished the youth club, on my way down to South London, my phone rings, it's a woman, I don't know her. She just said, is that Cheryl? I was like, yeah, Cheryl Phoenix, yes. She just literally burst into tears, and it was like the cry of the womb. So I'm like, I had to pull over the car. No, I was already parked up.
Just take
I was already parked up. But, I have hands-free, which is good. But then I sat down and I listened to this woman, and she was literally like, I need social services. I need them to come and take my children. And I was like, but why? She's like, I just can't cope. And basically I goes, all right, look, give me your address. I'm going to come to your house right now. So then at the same time I'm thinking, oh my God, what if someone wants to assassinate me? I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Because you don't know. Like someone tried to invite me out on Instagram the other day, and I'm like, really? You know what I mean? I love food, but I'm not that desperate. So it was like, so I went to her house, and luckily my friend was with me. So we went there, sat down. All this woman actually needed was someone to listen to her. The children, I don't know how many of you in here are parents, but children get on your nerves. They think they know everything. They write all over the walls. They don't listen. You tell them to go to bed about 7,000 times. Sometimes mums have to turn into Jet Li to just put them in their place and all kinds of things. Because if you're not here, so, well, literally, because it's all this like you're not allowed to do this and that and the other. Look at the result of it. So at the end of the day, like we went there, I spoke to her. She came from a domestic violent background. Husband had gone, she had 4 children, she doesn't know anyone in London, she moved to London to meet her dad rejected her, and she wanted to go back to college and do all of these things, so I was like, that's fine. I spoke to a few people that I knew, I goes, listen, you need to phone this woman at least once a week. Do you know what I mean? Just tap in, make sure she's okay. I can't physically do it, I've got too much on my plate. And then she built back up her self-esteem. Any event that was going on, I was saying, I will pay for her entry fee. Just make sure she can go, get someone to look after those damn badass kids every so often, take them to the park and give her a break. Some guys to come in and help decorate her house because they've written all over the walls or whatever. You know, and it was just, that's all she needed, just some support. So I feel that it's our responsibility as women and men in our community to make sure we are looking out for our brothers and sisters out there. Because, you know, everyone's got an Instagram and everyone's got Facebook and everyone looks happy, everyone's taking pictures, skin and teeth, when they can't pay their rent. Yes. Or they can't pay their mortgage. And sometimes people, as the lady said before, you know, fake it till you make it. But then if you're going to be evicted tomorrow, you need to be realistic with where you are and actually speak to somebody. Even if they're going to chat your business, people chat you anyway. So and then you keep talking until you find the right person that can support you, whether it's in the system or not, because someone out there will know how to deal with your issue. And a lot of the time I get issues like that and I pass them on to people that I know in the community who specialise in housing, immigration, whatever, because I know people can't afford it generally, and those that can pay. So even with that now, when I again talk about the schools to prison pipeline, if you have a child in the education system who's being penalised on a daily basis, particularly our boys, they're going to get angry. And when they get angry and they feel no one's listening, or they've been pushed into the pupil referral units, which are run by G4S Security, the same people that, have you seen the news of the new secure prison, this new secure school that's oh no, the secure school. It's like basically a prison, but not a prison. It's a school where you have to pass your exams before you can leave, which has been going on for years. Oh yeah, people didn't listen. I'm saying I've been talking about this for years.
Where are these schools?
In deprived areas in London. Oh, absolutely. So that used to be run, one of them used to be, or a few of them used to be run by G4S Security. However, it was also lighted in a Panorama documentary, I think back in 2013, that too many of our, particularly our children, were dying because they were restraining them, unqualified staff were restraining them in there and killing them. So this is quite common. Oh yeah, this is going on even now. You've got G4S Security running children's homes as well. Child sexual exploitation, all of these things. Sometimes the foster carers see the same car picking up the child, some girls 12, 13 and 14 years of age, who have been forcibly removed from their family homes because schools have called social services because mum has decided to go into school and complain because my daughter is being bullied by Jessica, but no one's listening to my daughter, and then my daughter's now the aggressive, and you've gone in and say, well actually no, this is what happened and blah blah, right, who do you think you're talking to? They will call social services will come and they do what they call an assessment, but a lot of them are lying on our families. I've sat in a meeting and then the social worker has written a report to the court saying that we tried to attack her. I'm like, me, I'm not going to prison for your ass, so I don't understand. So, you know, these are the things that are going on, and the lucky thing is, this isn't to put down anyone who may be a social worker in here. There are some good social workers that do call and say, you know what? You know, I don't know if you're a social worker or not, I wonder. No, it's true, but there are some good ones, and they will always call and be like, Cheryl, what's going on? Doesn't make no sense. They shouldn't be taking this family to court. Mum just needs some support. I've got parents that have called social services because they don't know where to go, and it's just flipped on them. They've taken their children within the space of 2 weeks. So we need to close sometimes our own ranks and start really looking out for each other. With regards to our children, the thing is that I find with a lot of us, and I'm guilty of it, or I used to be guilty of it before I opened my youth club, was like, you know, see how they pick me over here. What you hanging around with them, you know, the car, tooties, you're gonna get your ass locked up and so on and such like. But then I was like, well, hold on a minute, but why are they behaving like that? How come they're behaving like that? What's their background? So then that's why I opened up my youth club. Do you know the first week I opened my youth club, I had 50 children. The second week I had 100. And every week therein we had 100, between 100 and 180 children every single week. So that tells me clearly there's a need for a youth club. However, do you know why I shut down my youth club? Because I couldn't get adult volunteers to come and spend 3 hours one day a week. So it comes back to us. Do you understand? It doesn't. For me, when people blame the children, I can't. Yes, when you pick up a knife and push it through someone thinking that's okay, absolutely. But there's always a reason why they've got to that point in the first place. And then the thing is, I always find again with regards to the services around mental health, around social services, around the education system, EHC plans, whatever it may be, is that when our children need the help and parents call, I've called my doctor, I've gone to the school, I've done this, I've done that, and no one's listening. But when Jessica needs the help now, it's like they jump in 2 feet first, they've got everything, horse riding, swimming lessons, she can go to school part-time, you know, they offer it. Literally. Do you guys know that you can actually send your child to school part-time if they can't get in the education system? And head teachers, yeah, and I would homeschool, I'm an advocate for homeschooling. And if I had children today, I would never make them set foot in any of these schools over here because they destroy our children. My son went from being a happy-go-lucky, cheeky kind of kid to a miserable, aggressive. We've turned him back round. Do you know what I mean? It took a lot of time, a lot of patience, a lot of broken doors. We've turned him back round to being the child that I raised from before I handed my children voluntarily over to the demons. So I have to be very, very mindful. Huh? Ticket. Oh, that's fine. There's a ticket on it. Once they ain't towing it away, I'm good. Once they ain't towing it away, I'm fine. That's fine. No, I parked out on the single yellow, but I'm good. Don't worry about the ticket.
That's how you're going on?
That's how I'm going on.
That's
I'll tell you. I'll tell you about that. Sometimes you got to be ghost in certain situations, and I'm ghost. So
That's right.
yeah, so tickets are fine. They can come all day.
Black child agenda, baby.
That's how we roll.
Yeah, so we have to do it. So yeah, so I have to look at what we're doing as a community first and foremost, how we're working together without bitching. And the thing is, a lot of us, not all of us are going to get along. Not all of us even like each other. There's plenty of people I don't like. However, if you're doing the right thing, then cool. But I've seen some things going on in our community, and I'm like, nah, that needs to be called out. People need to be called out on some of the foolishness, but we also need to make sure we're protecting our children, because right now our children are running riot. Why? They're our children. How is it only our community of children that are out there going crazy, but we have the largest disposable income or spending power globally? Our spending power exceeds everybody else's. We look good. We look amazing, but yet we don't have a school that we can say is our own.
Exactly.
Not one. Every other one that they do have is maybe a free school, which is still government sanctioned, so you have to follow the government guidelines, even though you can still do what you want in there, and then or a church school. So where is our independent school, considering we look so good and we eat so well? Because we're dying of diabetes all day, so we must be eating.
And we're flossing.
Yeah, and we are flossing. We look good. You know, today I, tried to dress down. You know?
We look like Christian Libertino.
Oh, the Louboutins. No, I'm not at that level yet. But if anyone wants to offer, that's fine. Then I'll sell them. You know what I mean? I'll sell them and get something else. What's that? $1 grand's worth of shoes.
Right.
Go food shopping, take a quick holiday, come back, and actually do some and reinvest back into the Black Child agenda. I don't need £1,000 shoes. So literally for me, my main thing is targeting our children. But even though people aren't ripping their kids out of the education system, they're not going to take their kids out tomorrow. People got work to do. When you look at the reality, Monday morning when they wake up, they have to go to work. They have to send their children to go and get an education because there's no alternative. We need to build that alternative. The only school I know of is Eden School right now. I'm coming to you. I can see you. Is Eden School. They're all the way in West London, Chiswick side. And it's run by a sister, Ghanaian sister actually, beautiful lady, wonderful soul. The children are doing well, one-to-one nurturing, fantastic. That's the one school I know of that's solely independent. She started out with the church, but she's trying to break away because a lot of with your Christian Muslim, it's putting people off. And I'm like, don't worry about that. Just get them kids and do what you need to do. Because right now, what I see is the bullying going on in the schools by teacher. I've got a boy right now in Ashcroft Academy in South London who's 12 years old. He's been in school, secondary school, since September. That boy spent more time in isolation by himself. In there, not going outside to play or anything. And then the head teacher turned around and said to me, well, the room's a really nice room. It's got really good daylight.
That is seclusion. That is seclusion. How about human rights?
How about his mental health and well-being? But then she turned around and goes, that's actually unlawful. No, it's not.
It is.
That's actually unlawful. No, it's not. We were inspected by Ofsted. Your Ofsted inspection expired in 2015.
They rely on you.
Needs new insurance.
Do you understand? So your Ofsted inspection expired in 2015. You're locking this child up like a prisoner. He's 12 years old. He started eating glass. He's that stressed out about going to school, and mum's just crying. I basically cussed mum. I'm like, why would you send your son to abuse on a daily basis? I don't understand. So anyway, the schools to prison pipeline is quite clearly constructed. Let me just switch on to that. That's why we've coined the phrase. We stole it from America, and it's here in the UK. Then all of a sudden, Sadiq Khan decided to mention it, and now everyone's talking about the schools to prison pipeline. I'm like, girl, bye. But so schools to prison pipeline is correct. I know, but I can't. It's not my phrase. How easy it can be. There's two ways. One goes via the school system directly, which is from your child ending up in a pre-referral unit, being bullied every day by teachers, told that they're worthless, told that they're useless. We don't have Black History Month, we have Inclusive Month. Right. Remember that, so they're including everybody, so we don't have nothing. You have some of the books, if you see some of the books like the AQA book last November, where it had the paragraph about Black families, how there's no men in the Black families, how there's only women, and they're dominating and domineering. I wouldn't call it domineering. I think there's strong black women. However, you know, those are the things, and we had to actually put a campaign together to get that actually removed out of the books. So all of those books have been taken down, because a lot of parents sometimes don't even understand some of the things that are in the books, because how they do reading, writing, and arithmetic, it doesn't exist anymore, does it? The 3 R's. So your child's in this environment where they're always told that they're stupid, they're always told that they're worthless, they're locked in isolation, they're penalised heavier than anybody else, similar to the prison system, and then they end up going to a pupil referral unit, which is again, remember, run by G4S Security. And if they have their lunch and they use their fingerprint to get their lunch in school, or their iris, that automatically goes onto the police database as well.
That's
Just so
like
you know.
Stop talking of the same-sex toilets.
Oh God, don't get me started on that, because that's by next year. I remember talking about this 5 years ago, and I was talking about it, and people are like, oh, you're rabble-rousing, oh, you're just trying to scare parents, you don't know what you're talking about. Now it's come, when that actually came out, my phone went absolutely nuts, my whole phone shut. I had to get another phone, completely broke down, because people were saying, what are we going to do, let's go and march, let's go and put in my good shoes. I don't think so. So all of these things took
Gay pride.
Yeah, I know, yeah, they've got gay pride going on at the moment. So all of these things, so then your child ends up in the Peru, and then by the way, Serco are the people that make the fingerprints. You know who Serco are? People that take you to prison.
Yeah.
So they're the ones that do the fingerprints and the SIMS file. So ask for your child's SIMS report, and also it's too late. If they're already doing the fingerprints, it's too late to get that off. It's already gone through the system. But if you know any of your friends whose children are going into secondary school, tell them not to use that. They can give them a card to actually get their lunch and get around the school. They don't need their iris and they don't need their fingerprint. From there, if they end up in the pupil referral unit, which they shouldn't if you call me in time, but if they do, they go in the pupil referral unit. If they're lucky, they may pass with a foundation GCSE. That means a C, no, not even a C, a D or an E. And your child, for example, could be autistic. Now, for me, autistic children fascinate the hell out of me. They absolutely, because my nephew's non-verbal autistic, and I've got another cousin who's 24, living completely independently and work full time, and he's also autistic. And then I've got my other nephew who's 16 now, who does communicate. So I've got each of the spectrums in my direct family. But then if you have an autistic child, for example, like my 24-year-old cousin who ends up in that environment, and you tell him to go and carry some drugs across the road, or you tell him to go and punch someone in the head or whatever, he'll be like, okay, do you know what I mean? Because he doesn't understand whether you're joking or not. So if they end up in that and then they come out with their D or E, what are they going to do with that? And then you've also got those that hang around outside those Perus, if they are around and that's not your ends blood. And then it's like, oh, would you like some chicken and chips? This is how simple it can be.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, would you like some chicken and chips today? Would you like some more tomorrow? Would you like a fiver? Would you like 20 quid? Oh, can you take that across the road to blah, blah? And sometimes all of those areas are under surveillance. We're the most watched country in the world. So something's being seen on someone's CCTV, but they can't catch you with a knife. But anyway, so they see all of this on CCTV, and they see your child, autistic or not. Some child's getting hurt today, and they're getting locked up. Very, very simply. And if your child if, for example, this is another one that my immigration lawyer, she keeps talking about, which is why if anyone sees my program for the Black Child Agenda, we cover practically everything: mental health, immigration, education, we cover everything, because everything is linked. And the immigration one is the one that's a hot subject right now, that if your child, if you're not born here and you and your child have right to remain, and your child reaches a certain age and they end up getting locked up for whatever the reason is, for 12 months or longer, they come out, they will be automatically deported back to your country of origin. And that's just that. So then, because one of our solicitors actually, you know the Jamaica flight from Birmingham? She basically had to go on the physical flight to stop that flight from going, and took, I think out of the 14, she took about 10 of them off the flight, because they had to do the paperwork in the middle of the night to get them back off the flight. But this is the reality with a lot of young people who have been born here, raised here, and their parents haven't actually applied for them to basically have the right to remain. Or if they do have the right to remain and they go to prison, that's the reality. So the schools to prison pipeline is very, very live and kicking. The fact that our children are on the road killing each other is not, I don't know why anyone's shocked, because it is a well orchestrated and designed plan, because martial laws come into this country. They're going to be shooting our children like target practice on the streets. That's just a fact and a reality, because otherwise, what other community do you know is stabbing and shooting? Asians have got their own little gangs going on. So do the Chinese and every other nationality. You don't see it on the news. However, with our community, once they start following what America does and start killing our kids on the street, Boris Johnson already got 3 cannons sitting down waiting. When the 2011 uprisings happened, he bought 2 water cannons, or 3 at the time, sold 2, he's still got 1. Then he went and bought another 2. So they're sitting down. So when he gets voted in, which he more than likely will, and then they start arming police, which they already are in certain areas, and your little Kwame is going to the shop to buy a pint of milk, and he looked like he had a gun, or he looked like he had an offensive weapon, and gets shot in the back of the head. There's no marching. There's none of this talk. So we need to actually get very, very active now. We need to actually start changing policy. We need to actually start demanding on policy. Hence why I did that petition government, which was a waste of time. I only did it to follow protocol and procedure. And when we were in the House of Commons the other day, Nana was there with me. What happened there? I tried my best to sit and, compose myself, because I just heard it's going to come out soon. I just heard a lot of talk with no clear action, no clear direction, nothing. No one in that room knew anything new. The information they were talking about was old data. Some of the data my organisation actually produced, and this is what you're talking about in the big House of Commons. And you had nothing to say what solutions you've got for our children, besides you took them skiing and to Spain, and they had a really good time. No actual solutions, nothing to tackle the institutionalised racism our children face on a daily basis in the education system, nothing to do with the fact that parents are having to work all hour God sends, nothing to do with the fact that funding, bids and applications are always ring-fenced for those that know how to write a good bid. So grassroots organisations like Nana, for example, and anyone else in this room, you're probably lucky if you get 20 grand, and that's supposed to last you the next 5 years to actually turn around our children. They know they don't want our children turned around. They know exactly what they're doing, so we need to start pooling our money. Am I out of time?
Yes.
I thought so. So for me, this should have been rum. Thank you very much for your time. No problem.
Thank you, Cheryl. That is beautiful, and thank you for the good work.
No, thank you.
So I'm going to invite Caroline Hamugabi. Come on up here. So as we all know, Caroline is the reason why we're all here today, and she is the founder of the think TANK720. Caroline, please come and give us a few words.
Oh my God. So awesome. I just can't believe that Cheryl came here today. Because she never told me nothing about losing anybody. I was thinking, oh, maybe she's somewhere else. But, I mean, it takes something like this to see how special someone is. Like, humbleness always pays off, And so also what Nana was talking about, working together, the cooperative, and also the manimal. Everything, if you see what was spoken about today, everything interlinks together, what Trust was saying, hence why the TT720, Think Tank 720. Now, coming on to that, what Sharako said, the education department, the legal department is lacking. When you go in mental health, the legal department for our people is lacking. When you go into economics, the legal department for our people is lacking. Hence why today I said, let's launch the TT720 legal team. Because if you're here and you're a lawyer as well, and I don't know whether you're a lawyer or not, we're welcome you to come on the legal team for TT720, because we need to share our own tools within our own community. Like Paul was saying to us, we need to employ ourselves, each other, and because we know we represent ourselves. The system does help to a certain extent, but they do not understand who we are, our cultures, hence why the TT720 legal team is going to be launched today. And so we have one of the team members here, but what I'm going to tell you, in this country there's 2 laws, because I'm a Mackenzie friend at law. They use either common law or business law. So when you enter the courtroom, you tell the judge what you're bringing on the table as a representative. Me, I strictly deal with common law. Because that law is not, I'm not there to do business, I'm there to deal with the human right of the man that you're dealing with, the spirit and the soul. 90%, if you're telling the judge that you're bringing that to the courtroom, 90% out of the time, you win the case. Because everybody is subjected to human error. And everybody is subjected to get a remedy. They give remedies to their own people, but you don't give remedy to a certain culture. So that's biasism. So what they've done now I'm doing my second master's in international business. There's also digital marketing, facial recognition, and they gauge it to ethnic minority. So when these young boys are going to commit crime, whatever, digitally, the person who's done the crime,
Perpetrator.
you understand? Yeah, as a perpetrator. So basically, there's a lot of deep things that are going on. Hence where Cheryl was talking about, you know, the black prison to school, from the school system to the prison. The prison pipeline. So in the workplaces, they don't know the real information. As Nana was saying, you've got your CV, but hold on a minute, your name is maybe Adeola at the end of it, and they're like, no, we're not employing you. You've got the tools and you've got the skills, but no one is, you've already been scanned and profiled. And then even if they give you the job, when you get into the job, you are treated a certain way subliminally, and you don't know, no, wait a minute, that's not right. Same thing after we come off as a legal team, you need to know your human rights, you know. Esther's going to come in and talk about the human rights, the tools that you have, the human rights. But me, I know that spiritually you have a natural right. It's not only the human right, you have a natural right to be a spirit and a human being. Hence why I said everybody's subjected to a remedy. But the most important thing, the tools of the human rights are used internationally. These are the treaties that are signed. So every one of us needs to know what the human right is. Last but not least, the National Cooperative Day. All of our black businesses, Asian business should have been here. Do you understand what I mean? But hold on a minute, where are they? It's only a few of us. So there's misinformation within our communities. And so Nana was like, okay, Caroline told me National Cooperative Day, I had to be here, and I read up on it. Because he's a learned man, he's going to go and do his research. You're not going to bring Nana somewhere without him doing his research. You understand?
Right.
These are the skills that we need to teach our community, that you need to find out the information that you need around the subject. Hence what Paul was talking about, you know, black economics. You need to find out the skills, the background information that he gave us. Dr. Mary, the background information that she gave us about £3,000 medical work. You understand what I mean? And because she's in the medical field, so she has the tools to teach us what it is. So this is what Think Tank 720 is about. It's an organization, but underneath there's different organizations, and we have been blessed to have different tools. And you know, we work together as a cooperative, the people that are in Think Tank 720. I work with Nana, I refer people to Cheryl, and you know, Cheryl's very passionate about what she does. And you know, everybody that is a parent here needs to tap into her, because she has that knowledge, she has her foundation set. The way I know that she's passionate, she's here today.
Yeah.
Do you understand? She's here today. So that alone has given me extreme respect for that lady there. You understand? And same, the young girl that left, she contacted me, she communicated with me on Facebook, because on Facebook I'm very active on my social outlet media, because I know I need to put the information out there for our people to know, because I see a lot of tools when we get invited to different places, like the City Hall, we see our people being used with their you know, intellectual property. You're there, you're synchronizing intelligence so that you can use it to get your fundings.
That's right.
And then not bring it back in our communities.
Exactly.
That is not on. That's why I'm always connecting people. People ask me, Caroline, why are you doing that? Why are you always, you know? No, I know why I'm doing it. Even if I'm not benefiting from it directly, but I know that our community will be benefiting from it. So here's why I'm always connecting people. I would like to call Solicitor Bola to come and talk about employment law. This is one of the TT720 legal team coming to talk about employment law and any other aspect of law that she thinks we need to know and tap into. Thank you. I'm just going to take this thing away because it looks ugly.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody.
Good
My name
afternoon.
is Omobala Uthman. I'm gonna try not to bore you. I know we've all been here for a while now. I'm not really going to go deeply into law or give a lecture on law. but I'm just going to give an overview. Like Caroline has...
I'm going to just take this out of your way so this
Oh,
is
that's
not all
fine.
these beautiful pictures you're taking.
That's okay.
In the background.
Just as Caroline has rightly pointed out, it's important to have a group of people to fall back on when you need advice. It's good to connect, it's good to cooperate and know where you have, where you can reach information easily. So maybe it's in terms of education, social services, whatever it is, whatever issue you're going through, it's always good to have somewhere to go to. And that's why TANK720 has set up a legal team whereby if anybody needs some kind of legal advice, you can fall back on them. But before I go further into that, what I want to highlight is this, that many of us most times think that, oh, I can easily deal with this. I want to encourage everybody that when you're going into a relationship, try as much as possible to read it. Anything that you're going into that's going to involve certain obligations required of you, or that you have certain obligations you're expecting from somebody else, it's always important to understand it. Don't just go into it blindly. Whatever that contract is, it could be the smallest type of contract, even an agreement between you and somebody to look after your children while you go to work. It looks very simple, but you need to understand it. I've had cases where people have a disagreement with their registered childminder and they end up in court. Some of these things you can avoid it if you read the document properly. If there's something that you don't understand, please take it to a solicitor or somebody who's got legal knowledge and who is qualified or approved to act in that capacity. But what's most important to me today to pass across is that please, please, and please read anything you're signing. By signing that document, you are creating a legal obligation on yourself. Even something as simple as a receipt. So a receipt can be, if for instance your name is written wrongly on the receipt, it could be good. You could say, that's not me. It could help you sometimes, but again, it might not help you, whereby a wrong information has been put on what you have signed. So if in future something, the fact why I'm saying you should read it is just that the person who's prepared that document may make a mistake and you don't know. You want to create certain rights and obligations between yourself and an organization. If the wrong thing has been put down, when you go to court, they're not going to know. The judge has to follow the evidence. You've got to provide evidence. It's not enough to say, this is what we said. You have to prove it. The only way you can prove it is by evidence. Again, it's not everything that's going to have documentary evidence, but there is some things that you're going to pull together that the judge is going to look at. And in cases where you have written evidence, that's brilliant. But what if that written evidence is not correct? So please, please, and please, read your document. If you don't have time to read it, speak to a legal personnel. I know it costs money, we don't want to pay too much money, and we think, oh, consultation is £120 for 1 hour somewhere. It's still worth it at the end of the day. Because those few quids you think you're saving, and the time you think you don't have to sort that out, you might spend about 3 or 5 years going to court or trying to sort it out later in future. And it's not just the money or time that counts, the heartache that you're going to go through. A lot of things will happen. So, yes. I'm a lawyer, I'm a dual qualified lawyer. I qualified in Nigeria about 23 years ago, and I've been qualified in this country too for almost 10 years now. I'm currently a civil servant with one of the government departments, and I also work with TANK720, with KB and co-solicitors, and what we're looking at is to have a kind of group where people can come to and seek advice. I want to talk a bit about employment law. I'm not going to go too much into it. It's just to give a flavor of it. Just for us to go away today, adding some more knowledge to ourselves. I've gained a lot of information and knowledge from listening to people here, and I really value that information. And going back on what I said about making yourself aware of your rights, I want to go quickly back to what my sister over there said about children and when they're put in isolation in school. I want to quickly contribute to that. My son was placed in isolation as well, and I was so vexed, like, how dare they? What has my son done? But what I did was the night before, I went to the website of the school and I went into their rules and regulations. And I was going to fight it because I've never heard of exclusion in my life before. And when they said exclusion, I'm like, what does that mean? Can they do that? But I was shocked because when I read it on the school's website, I found they were allowed to do it. They were smart. They had put certain things in there that if this happens, we will do this. If this happens, we will do this. And because I'm a lawyer, I printed it out. And I went to the school the next day. They couldn't believe it. I would have time to go there. I called my office and said, I'm going to be late. I'm sorry. I'm going to that school. And I sat down with them and said, I need to know exactly what my son did. All I wanted to understand was his behavior enough to come under the definition of the actions they had put in their paperwork that would get him excluded. And then they put it under this general term of a behavior that amounts to blah, 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 blah. Yes, they put him in inclusion or whatever they called it. Isolation, I'm sorry, not inclusion, isolation. But what I got out of my shouting match with them was that that ended that day. It was meant to be 3 days. And I said, no, my son is not such a boy. This is the effect of what you're doing to him. He's excluded from class. He's this, he's that. Yes, they justified what they had done, but they assured me when we left, even though they were telling me that, oh, this is what we have to do, and all of that. I'm not happy about it. This is the thing. As we're leaving the room, one of the teachers came to me and said, don't worry. He will soon be out of there. Don't worry. You know, I got him out, but everything's because I tried to find out. You need to make that time. If you don't know it, ask somebody that does. So please, if you have any legal issues you need to sort out, go to the legal team, all right? So back to the drawing board, talking about employment. Yeah. Some of us here may be employers and some of us may be employees. I think it's important that we understand the basics about employment law, and I want to talk in particular about unfair dismissal. Unfair dismissal, simply put, is just getting sacked. But getting sacked in a way that is partial, unfair, biased, or prejudicial. That's the simplest way I can put it. It's not a legal term, it's not a legal definition of how you can look at that, but really and truly, it's just when you have lost your job in an unreasonable, unfair, or harsh manner. Now, for your dismissal or sack to be unfair, or for you to sack somebody, or let me put it this way, if you're an employer and you have sacked somebody, it is going to be unfair if certain conditions are in place. You've got to first of all look at what is the employment status of that individual. Is that person considered to be an employee or not? How long has that person worked for the employer? If that person has worked for 2 years or more, then it could be able to claim unfair dismissal. Again, does the law say that that dismissal is unfair? Because you've also got to look at what does the legislation say about the terms of that employment. So, if an employer fails to follow the rules set out when an employee is being dismissed, that employee can take that employer to the employment tribunal. Again, that's a different kettle of fish, because to go to employment tribunal, there are different rules to follow, but you don't have to worry about that. You just go to the legal experts, they'll look at that for you and they'll explain it to you. So I want to have a quick look at the different grounds that will constitute fair grounds to dismiss an employee. I want to go through that first of all before going to the unfair grounds, because I think if we know what will constitute a fair dismissal, it will be easier to know what is unfair. So the first one I'm going to look at is, what if somebody has stolen or has poor attendance or has demonstrated some acts of violence in an organization? That could lead to the person's dismissal if the relevant steps has been taken according to the terms of employment. Again, if somebody has a lack of capability or qualification to do the job, that could constitute a fair ground of dismissal. If there's a genuine redundancy, maybe the company is no longer viable and they need to do away with some staff, redundancy could be a fair ground of dismissal. It could also be a statutory requirement. If, for instance, the job requires that the person is required to drive, but one thing or the other has happened, the person is driving, somebody's called them up somewhere, maybe somebody doing some black child agenda, and then they're on the phone and they're driving. I'm not pointing fingers, but I'm just saying, and their driving license happened to be revoked, and their job needs them to drive. Again, they could get dismissed because they do not have a driving license anymore. There could also be some other reasons which could lead to the person's dismissal. If, for instance, that employee refuses to do certain acts or they do not accept certain changes to their terms of employment. So having looked at the different grounds where dismissal could be fair, I'm going to go quickly on the grounds that could be seen as unfair. There are some grounds that are unfair according to statute. So if, for instance, somebody is on maternity or paternity leave, and as a result of that, they lose their job, that is protected by statute. It could constitute unfair dismissal. If it relates to parental or adoption leave, where somebody is trying to claim that or apply for that, and as a result of saying, I need this, I want to take this, and then it leads ultimately to that person being dismissed, that is statutorily protected. It would be unfair dismissal. You've got issues relating to minimum wage, pregnancy, trade union activities, or if you're making a protected disclosure, for example, whistleblowing, something's happening in an organization, and you go and leak that information out on that whistleblowing. If that person is dismissed as a result of that, that would be unfair dismissal. So, in order for the process of dismissal to be fair, if you're an employer, you need to make sure you follow the right process. There are formal warnings that need to be given. It's got to be 2. You must give at least 2 formal warnings before you can dismiss your employee. If you're an employee as well, for your employer to dismiss you, you need to be given at least 2 formal warnings first of all. Again, except it is gross misconduct, it will be a fair reason to dismiss an employee without notice. So you've got to give notice that that person is going to lose their job. But if it is gross misconduct, you do not need to give notice at all. Whatever constitutes gross misconduct would already have been dealt with in that person's terms of employment. So if an employer, as I've said before, does not follow the fair process, they can be taken to the employment tribunal. Again, they have to look at the ACAS code of practice. When it comes to discipline and grievance, you've got to make sure you follow the rules. You've got to make sure a contract is in place as well. A contract is a two-way thing. An employee has respect to all the terms, has an expectation of certain rights and obligations from the employer, just as the employer to expect certain things from the employee. It's got to be balanced between both parties. So consequences of unfair dismissal is just that if an employment tribunal says that you have unfairly dismissed somebody, that person can claim compensation against you. And the maximum amount they can claim for unfair dismissal changes every year. So if anybody has any case relating to that or any issues about that, you can come to the legal team, or if there's any other issue you need advice on, it doesn't have to be something big. Anything you don't understand and you're going to create a relationship that involves rights and obligations, speak to the legal team. A quick distinction I'm going to make again is about constructive dismissal. You've got to be careful. That's different from unfair dismissal, and different rules apply to that, because constructive dismissal is when you're indirectly forced to leave your employment. It's not you who wants to leave, but maybe the working environment has been made so unsuitable for you that you feel forced to go. Maybe it could be because of your religious belief or your belief in something, and or maybe you've suddenly been demoted for no reason, or there are other employees bullying you or harassing you and you can no longer continue in that job, and then you have had to leave. Do not think it is right. Your rights have been violated. Speak to somebody. I would say speak to the legal team. Okay? Speak to somebody. Speak to a legal expert, okay? Thank you very much. Yes.
And I just wanted to also let some parents know, even I don't know how it would fall for you, is that what I'm finding is that a lot of, because schools are calling parents daily, come and get your child, which is unlawful in itself, they're losing their jobs. And I've got many parents who've ended up in one-bedroom bedsits because they've lost their job because they keep going to the school.
Yeah.
Where would a parent, because then, do you know what I mean? It's kind of, I don't know if it's a grey area in your world, but it is something that is happening.
I know. One thing I've had in my children's school is that every time I go there, the teachers make a comment, not because my child is of bad behavior, but anytime there is something I'm not clear about, I go. And they keep saying this, oh wow, this is really good, you make time to come. And I'm thinking, what are you thanking me? This is my child, this is my business. What other job do I have? They keep saying it and commending me and thanking me, like, don't thank me, I'm gonna be here. They're always surprised that, oh wow, not many parents come here to talk. If something's wrong with my child or they're complaining about something, I go, they know me. I'm calling them in the morning, can you ask Mr. So-and-so to please call me back? Anything I want, I get seriously involved. They know me. I am there, and I will make noise, and I don't care.
But I have a different point of view. I have it where they drop things on you at the last minute,
Yeah.
and then you must attend.
Yeah.
And when you don't,
Yeah.
you're looked at as like you don't care.
Yeah.
So that's
No,
like,
you don't have to attend. What you do is you call, because they try that all the time with parents.
Yeah.
What you do is you phone or email. I always tell people don't do anything over the phone. Email them and tell them, unfortunately, I'm unavailable
Yeah.
to come. Because what if you had a doctor's appointment?
Got to
I'm
respond.
unavailable but for this date. However, I can do this date and this time, and use that time to gather up all your evidence, and then you go armed and don't go alone.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
once
thank you.
once you've done something informally or let me say verbally, and you're not getting any response or feedback, put it in writing. Because once I pursued something for a while and I don't get a result, I write and I'm telling you the answer. Or when I'm expecting a reply and they don't reply me, then I write again and say, if I don't hear from you in 3 days' time, I take it that I can do X, Y, Z. I get a response in the next 30 minutes. So.
And always keep
Yes,
the
sir.
email
Yeah,
trail.
what I'm
Yeah.
finding is
Always
that
keep the
quite a
trail.
few people that I'm now working with, 3 years, 3, 4, 5 years before they're retiring, and things are not happening. They're having written warnings, and then all of a sudden they're being dismissed. And this is becoming a bit of a trend. So I'm just wondering, yeah, there's what's the recourse in regards to it? Because it's usually trivial, but it's quite close to the time of retirement, and then all of a sudden, oh, you done the first warning, second warning, and now it's heading towards
Yeah.
dismissal.
Yeah,
I don't know if
mean,
it's-
it could go either way. I wouldn't be able to say just standing here because every situation is different
Yeah.
and there's always a story behind it. So unless one knows more about what's happened, especially about those warnings, what are they about? What really happened? I would say that once somebody is getting a warning at work, start getting worried and look at it. What have I done? Like me, I had not a warning, I was sick. And then in the place where I work, when you're sick, there's all this long process of you come back to work, you do a back to work thingy. And I was foolish enough when I was sick that I didn't go to work on the Monday. On the Tuesday, I was able to get up and I'm like, oh, I just started this job. I need to go. I forced myself and went the following day, Tuesday. I regretted it because by Tuesday night, I was more sick. So I couldn't go on the Wednesday. So it means that at my place of work, I had 2 spells of sickness. I'm only allowed 3 spells of sickness. Once I'm sick the 3rd time, 3 spells, I get called into a room for a meeting called, you have a formal review and all that. And then my manager is going to give me a first written warning. And I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, what am I going to do? And then that made me start getting really worried. And I started thinking, I don't even want to work anymore. I think I need to get some money and start a retail job. Oh my God, how am I going to get a warning? Even though the warning is because I've been sick, they're not saying I've actually done something wrong, but once you're getting a warning at work, alarm bells start to ring and you've just got to sit back. Right now I'm thinking of, how am I going to just stay well? I mustn't be sick again in a while. I just need to cross certain months before I'm sick again. So we've just got to be careful. We've got to look after ourselves. Like some people have said here, your health is important. I should have sat home that second day. I shouldn't have dragged myself into work. It was wrong. I was so ill, but if I'm moving, I'm going to work. I don't go only when I can't move, when I can't get out of bed. If I can get up, I'm out. And now I'm slowing down like, no, I've got to look after myself. So once they get in that warning, let them talk to somebody and look at it. It depends on the grounds for the warning that will determine if an eventual dismissal would be unfair.
Right.
Yeah, the circumstances will determine.
It just feels that because it's not just one isolated case. It's
Yes.
quite a few that's come to my attention.
Yeah, the organization might have a hidden agenda and they're just using that.
And also there's a point being a union person. You know, if you have a union representative or you pay union membership,
Yeah.
you need to speak to your trade union.
Yes.
Because what happens is if you bring a trade union representative, they are totally different.
Yes.
And a lot of the time, the employer will back down because they will see that you're representative.
Indeed.
But the rep always looks at it comes back to having that legal backup. Before the reps will have your back at that meeting, they're going to look at the rules, they're going to look at your circumstances. Well, what have you done? They will tell you straight away if you're in the wrong. And the best thing they'll just be looking to do there is to minimize the damage. But if you're right, they'll fight for you. So it goes back to what we're saying again. Know your rights. You've got to know your rights. You've got to know your obligations as well. You do your bit and then find somebody to have your back. Such as lives. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I feel like we should have probably given everybody like half an hour. There's so much knowledge in this room. You know. So I will invite Mr. Jack Alecho. He's a publisher and also an author, taking back ownership of Africa, and I think that is really incredible. We need to go back to the roots, and yeah, thank you.
Good evening. I think it is easier at the end now when I can do all the boring bits after hearing all the sharp, logical, and knowledge that has been shared around. I don't think anybody can really say one can pass or overcome the kind of knowledge and skills that have been shared here. I was one of those who were the founders of the TANK720, and at the time I had already written my first book. I've written other books now, but the book that was on the table at that time was Taking Back Ownership of Africa Habitat. That's one, is being sold in Amazon. Many of the things that were said today, I think, bear resemblance to the arguments or the highlights that I have already made in this book. Is that I moved away from pursuing the line of blaming and trying to suggest that if there is anything that we have found ourselves in, I think we need to find a way of taking back control of it. And in the Africa sense, I felt that the title of the argument would be Taking Back Ownership of the Africa Habitat. And I don't know whether I would say unfortunately, but I would say that as far as acquiring knowledge and skills that has been dispensed here, as far as our African nationalities were concerned, that was a settled matter. They were already agreed that they needed to send their sons and daughters to school to acquire the necessary tools for making better decisions. That was a settled matter. So that's why we were sent out here to acquire all these tools and skills so that better decisions can be made. So what has happened? All these skills and tools and that has been acquired for making better decisions, if there was any better day for explaining and putting them on the table was today. It was all there. The issue is that what our nationalities expected, and they still expect, but I'll cross that line later on. What they expected was that after we had acquired the tools for making better decisions, we would go back to them and account for those tools. And after accounting for those tools to them, then they are the ones who would then make better decisions. What we have now done, and me included, that we acquired the tools for making better decisions. We have now gone ahead and privatized those tools. And now those tools, those decisions which we make are now ours. But those who needed to make better decisions have been alienated and from being any near to making any decisions. So what has happened is that the decision-making table for all sorts of governance in the Africa habitat was taken away when they privatized the Africa and they put the decision-making table very far away, so that our people don't know where that decision-making table is. They don't know where it is. Now, we who acquired the tools for making better decisions are the ones sitting at the decision-making table in which our people don't even know where it is. So how do we then make ourselves relevant in the eyes of our people that they sent us to acquire the tools? We have not accounted for the tools. And then we try to make ourselves relevant. That was made very easy for us. The mode of governance under the privatization of the Africa habitat, the mode of governance had a particular sequence to it. At the leading edge of that governance was politics, political governance. Followed along that was economic linkages, transactions. Along the third in that line was social linkages. And last in that order was a cultural solidarity. If you do anything about culture, it is at the back end of the whole governance of the habitat. What I am suggesting, and which I try to suggest here, is that if we have to take back ownership of the Africa habitat, we should have to appreciate exactly what should be the mode of governance which our ancestors had settled. Actually, it is in the reverse. Our mode of governance, the leading edge of mode of governance in the African habitat, amongst all the nationalities, irrespective. By the way, these countries you call Nigeria, Egypt, and all this, these are private estates of the Malin. It has nothing to do with Africa people. It had nothing with Ethiopia or South Africa. Those are private estates, the private resources, the private. It has nothing to do with Africa people. So if we reverse the whole thing and go back to what was the settled matter, was that at the point when our people were pragmatic enough to know that they could not make any better decisions. That's why they then were pragmatic and embraced the concept of acquiring better tools for making better decisions. So what was the mode of governance? The mode of governance was It was cultural leading edge. Culture was a leading edge. And everything around which was to be injected in governance was led by culture. And around our culture, we have done our nationalities with all forms of government, all forms of leadership, all forms of rules and regulations and whatever. Next in that order was the social solidarity. Now, in social solidarity, it means that whatever it is that was already settled, it could then be negotiated around the social solidarity. What is it that we like? What is it that we don't like? If we don't like this, how can we deal with this? And and settle so that we can live side by side in civility. That's why the African nationalities, large as that content was, they lived side by side in civility. I have no evidence anywhere that there was a civil war among the African nationalities. There's no evidence. There's no evidence. They lived side by side, despite the fact that they were speaking different languages. But they lived side by side. They negotiated, but around the leadership of culture and social solidarity. Now, in that development, the economic engagements obviously took place. We want to graze our cattle along there, and we want to tie our sheep around there, and we want to do some fishing there, and probably do some hunting there, and do something, There were those economic, they did that, But it was agreed on that mode of economic linkages so that there was those kind of transactions that took place. Now, when all that was agreed, then how was that affected? The only way it was affected was to have the political platform right at the back end of it, in which all the nationalities, they came wherever, we did have parliaments then, but they were called the parliament, and a trio under something, and people met and sat and they said, yes, we agree. Yes, we agree. How was that demonstrated? How were those agreements demonstrated? Some of you know, like if you're Yoruba here, or if you are Muganda here, or whatever, some nationality from Africa, you have your songs, you have your dances, you have your this, that, those kind of expressions. Those songs and dances were to capture where the minutes of the meeting, how the agenda was started, and how it was concluded, and what was agreed. Those songs and dances and expressions in the fora and all these things, they are not for entertainment. They were not for entertainment. They were minutes of the meeting, agenda, minutes of the meeting, what was agreed, and how it was concluded. Now, then they delegated the responsibility. Who is now going to carry out all these things? Then we had, of course, the doctors who are responsible for the medication, and the priests who are responsible for our spiritual things, and the hunters who went hunting and all these things, and everything was accounted, properly. So that was the order of the governance of the Africa habitat. So all the anger I was hearing today from these excellent and logical discussions today was because of this reversal of managing our way of life, governance, in which politics now there's the leading edge and everything is politics. And then the economic linkages. Next, what is the cost of this? What is the cost of that? And the lawyers here were, tabulating using tables of what would be the higher cost or lower cost. Then okay, Carol has done a wonderful job now. We have got social linkages here. And we do a little bit socializing and all these things. She also promised us a coffee, tea, and a lot of few things. I take those notes very seriously because that's exactly falls in line with that kind of social linkages which now comes that, and of course what I was disappointed was that there was no singing. Which would have captured that kind of the cultural element, which was a little bit. So I hope you'll work very hard on the singing part and the dancing. That's the next time. So that is basically what I want to express. That everything which was done today, which was said today, is very, very consistent with the model of governance. The only thing that the quarreling and the sharp language and all this thing obeys the order in which which politics the leading age and culture is last. But and why the African people find it difficult to actually function within that order is because the role has been reversed. And the African people, I can say their night cannot function in that order. They can't. The African people, African person, the settled matter was culture was a leading edge. There was social solidarity. There was economic transaction, and the politics was at the end. That was settled matter. And the settled aspect of that was that is why they were pragmatic enough to accept to take us to school to acquire the tools for making better decisions, because they had settled the matters. The only matter was an improvement in the decision making. So what have we done? No, we have joined the privateers. We don't account for the tools for better decision making. The decision making table is very far away. We sit on it. The nationalities don't even know where it is. And I can say even worse, is that they have given up on us. And they still produce young ones whom they send to school to acquire the tools in hope that they just want one to come back and account for those tools. Just one. They just want one. All the African nationality just want that one who will go back one day and say, I have come to account for the tools, and here it is. The rest of us are guilty. Thank you very much.
I think now I can truly understand why things did move the way they moved today. At the beginning we thought, okay, not everybody's here, but actually everything has worked with synergy, and that's just amazing. You had to do that talk at the end. It really had to happen like that. So as much as I was trying to make sure things happen on time, that was the right time, so thank you. Thank you. We can go away from here and take that with us, So I am going to call our last speaker, and that will be Esther. She'll be coming here to talk to us about human rights and the human rights campaign. And I think that is a really perfect way to end the day. Thank you, Esther.
So I'm even going to try to, we all come from very different backgrounds, and we're not going to lie, I'm from a completely different background, but I gave my life in voluntary service to get people solutions so we can be stronger, so we can be educated, and so we as a people can become more effective. Since I was 15 years old, I've been a full-time volunteer. That's 26 years now. Because there's so many campaigns and so many tools that you can apply to educate people. And Mr. Hubbard believed when you educate him, you give him answers, you make him stronger, and he can become stronger and educate others, and you'll have more sanity around you, which is the whole point. So human rights was a subject very close to Mr. Hubbard's heart. There was human rights that you were born with, that we were all born with, and that were actually really not known. In 1948, really by the United Nations, and the United Declaration of Human Rights was actually created 1948, and you find out by survey most people have never even heard of it. So one of the possibly 20 campaigns that we're running is just to bring awareness on what human rights are. And we have booklets that describe exactly what they are, and we have booklets that tell the story of where human rights came from and why we have them. And we basically fundraise to have educator kits, and we give these and we send these to schools where teachers are taught how to tell children. When you teach them young enough what their rights are, they're able to stand up for themselves more. So we have tens of thousands of kids who are actually being educated on this, and all you have to do is go online and look for the kit, and you get sent it for free. It's part of the campaigns that we're doing to enlighten people and make them understand that the more people we enlighten with knowledge, the more we empower them. Because I will never tell you what to do, but if I tell you how to live stronger, then you will fight for your own rights and you will be able to protect yourself that way. Which is just one of the many, many campaigns. Now what I wanted to do, I'm not going to show you another 45-minute video, but every single human right has been fully captured with a video to show what that human right is, so people understand how the human right works. And if I can get this thing to work,
I remember going to this slum school.
Then I will show you exactly how one of these is. And then at the end I'll give you the booklets so you can see for yourself how they go. And then we're ending off for today, I think.
Esther?
Yes.
Could I kindly ask if you can show me the booklets again?
No, we're going to do that afterwards. Sorry guys, as you can see I really know what I'm doing over here. It's been an embarrassing afternoon. You've probably heard a lot about the philosophy of Scientology in the news. There's a lot of controversy about the subject. It's a very simple self-help method. Mr. Hubbard was a fiction writer in the 1930s. It's his fiction that's been taken out of context, where you find rather crazy stuff in the media about it. It's actually all it is. He was a very good fiction writer, sold a lot of books, and it's the books that keep the house open today. It's fully sponsoring the house to remain open. So that's, we set up our own TV channel because when you start telling the truth and you start fighting for human rights, you start stopping, you stop people from being harmed by harmful drugs and whatnot, you become very unpopular with certain people and you start having crazy campaigns on there. So our solution was we made our own TV station. So we don't need to pay $1 million for an ad to show, hey kid, this is what you need to do, these are your rights. So this is what this channel is over here. And we have here human rights. Here we go. I'm going to just show you the first one so you get an idea of how this works.
Can you tell which of these children was not born free? Can you tell which of these children was not born equal? Can you tell which of these children does not deserve to be treated with dignity? We can't either. Human rights right number one. We are all born free and equal. What are human rights? Find out.
It's going to go through all 30 of them, so I will not do that today. But you can find them online as well on the same TV channel if you want to look at them. But that's our campaign, one of the many campaigns that we stand for. And of course, along the way, we're very blessed to have people that do campaigns like yourselves, and we work together in collaboration. And I think all together we can definitely make a difference. I feel very blessed having been part of this today. I've learned a lot today, which is fantastic. And all of you are always welcome to come back to your own events over here. But this house is open, it is free for you to use, and get your message out, okay? Thank you very much. Should we do the group shot now? I think now would be a good time to do the group shot.
Yeah.
Paul.
So, you all survived. Well, we all survived today. Really, it's been an absolute pleasure hosting all of you today. I've learned so much from all of you. Caroline, thank you for what you do. So,
And she's been such a good host.
Yeah.
She's been so lovely. You know, she called me and said, Caroline, what do you need? This is what you call sisterhood. You know what I mean? And same with Cheryl. She was like, oh, are you all right? In inbox, and I was like, yeah, I'll be fine. And I'm so pleased that everybody that come here is able to get something from everybody. I hope that was the theme of today, because that's what's called cooperative.
That's it.
You know, cooperative. And I do know that we're going to be doing this every year, and also we're going to be doing it with different organisations. So maybe next year Access UK does the cooperative day, Black Child Agenda does the cooperative. That's how it works. So thank everybody for coming. And then I would like to ask and request you all get a group shot so that we could all share. And I hope everyone shared each other's information, because that's what we're here for. Thank you so much. And we'll be giving a leaflet out, human rights. Yeah. If you can pass the food.
That sounds really true.
thank you all for sharing with us. It's been absolutely lovely spending the day with you. Thank you. Over and out.